Things are starting to get a little colder here, so today's session will be firstly about warming us up a little, but then secondly using the hand correctly, not only to protect it, protect the wrists, but also to investigate this hasta bandha, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and the connection between the hand and then what goes on at the shoulder. So to begin with, we'll do Adho Mukha Svanasana, hands under the shoulders. And as per normal, I'm not too interested in the legs, so keep the legs slightly bent. On the exhalation, just come in. Spend a moment really feeling the 5 bases of the fingers come down into the ground. And already from that, if you're pressing those 5 bases down into the ground, you're going to feel that the central part of the hand actually isn't touching the ground. This is the famous hasta bandha. The bandhas in yoga are these energy centers where you're going to find arches. So this is the arch of the hand, if you like. And why arches are important? Well, you only need to look at a cathedral and the architectural arches which support massive amount of weights. That's the importance of arches, and so you can relate that quite easily to the body. So as we're here, really focusing in on this hasta bandha, elongate your arms into the floor, supporting, as I say, that action of the hands, and consequently moving your bottom back behind, keeping your legs quite bent, and only focusing on the hands, the arms, the shoulders, and the torso, and feeling the connection that is linking up these parts. And breathe. The head should be nice and heavy, but make sure with the head dropping down that this does not drag the alignment that you're currently creating between torso and arms. And then to have a relaxation, we come into Adho Mukha Virasana, big toes together, the knees separate, and either put your head on the ground, or if you want to, you could maybe put one hand over the other and rest your head on your hands. So do one exhalation through the mouth and feel the pelvis permanently going backwards as your chest is permanently going forwards. And then breathing in, supporting yourself with your hands as you come up. Just go one more time into Adho Mukha Svanasana with the hands, the fingers moving forward. Feel that hasta bandha, so really exploit the 5 bases of the fingers. And then from there, really grow the arms into the hands and into the floor. And what that means is that it's way easier to get that pelvis moving back behind. Now, if you feel like stretching your legs partially or fully, that's fine. But do so without changing what you're doing with the torso. And do it slowly, because it's so easy to accidentally cheat. And remember, the head is nice and heavy and doesn't do very much. And this time when we come out, we can actually walk our feet together and come into Uttanasana, legs slightly bent. You can take your elbows if that's what you'd like to do, or leave your hands and arms heavily moving in the direction of the ground. Again, the head is just hanging. And then we can just come back down into Adho Mukha Svanasana. This time we're going to rotate our hands out 90 degrees to the side. And then we're going to use our hands in the same manner. So 5 bases of the fingers pushing down onto the ground. As you then breathe in and come up again with legs partially bent. And feel the difference now in the shoulders with the fingers turning out to the side. And there's quite a desire, I'm sure you're noticing, of lifting up that index finger, the base at least of the index finger. So really resist that desire. And again, the same thing. So we're trying to elongate the arms into the hands and from there into the floor. And in doing so, we can get that pelvis moving back and up. And then when you are happy with that, you can start to partially straighten your legs if you'd like. But whatever you do, make sure that the head is nice and relaxed. And breathe. And feel how the shoulders express that hand movement. There's a real difference between what you're feeling in an Adho Mukha Svanasana that's normal, i.e. the fingers pointing to the front, and an Adho Mukha Svanasana where the fingers are pointing to the side. And then we can, from there, again, move, walking slowly but surely towards our hands. And then bring all the weight of the body onto the feet. You might want to already in this kind of Uttanasana with the legs slightly bent, massage your wrists and hands. It's quite a stretch. And then either leave them dropping towards the floor. If you want to take hold of your shoulders again, just do so. Bring your hands down, and one more time we'll have the fingers coming out to the side as you then walk back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. So take your time, make sure your feet are parallel, make sure your hands are in line with one another. Bring all 5 bases of the fingers down. Head heavy. Feel the chest moving towards the hands as the pelvis moves back and up towards the ceiling. If you wish to straighten your legs, please do so. And every exhalation, the legs get straighter and straighter. Heels start to descend towards the ground. Don't collapse your chest towards the yoga mat. Keep the chest moving towards the head, towards the hands. And then exhale, knees as wide as your yoga mat, big toes together, and we come back into Adho Mukha Virasana. And again, if you want to take a moment, just massaging your hands and wrists. And then when your wrists and hands are feeling happy, just put your head either onto the ground or onto the hands themselves. Breathing in and coming up. And then the final time we do Adho Mukha Svanasana, it's going to be a strange one because we're going to rotate our hands 180 degrees back. So your fingers are pointing towards your feet essentially. And it's quite intense, the work both in the hands, but then from there the whole stretch of the arms and the shoulders. So take it easy, and any discomfort, remember you automatically by default go back to breathing with more awareness and also exploiting that exhalation, sighing out that discomfort and observing yourself closely. We rotate 180 degrees back the hands, and then we can place them on the ground like this. And then when you want, exhale and just bring your knees a little bit off the floor. So as you can see already, this is a very weird Adho Mukha Svanasana, but that's okay. And then we go back to feel those 5 bases of the fingers of the hand coming down, the hasta bandha, the support. Lower abdomen in and moving up towards the spine. And then when we come down, we don't collapse. That would be very dangerous. When you start to bring your knees down, suck that tummy up towards the ceiling. And it's only when your knees come down to the ground that you can then relax the abdomen. I would say move the knees close to the hands. And then as you start to sit down, you can start to raise the hands. And then from there, the hands can just drag onto the thighs. You might want to wiggle your fingers. Have a look at the redness of your hands, it's quite impressive. And maybe give your wrists a bit of a massage. This is really fabulous for those of us who have got tension problems working at computers. I ride a motorino everywhere, so the accelerator of my right handlebar really starts to irritate my right wrist. So this is very good as well for reinforcing any kind of weak areas. Let's try that one again. When you're ready, really feel that hasta bandha kick-starting the hand and above all protecting it as you move into this kind of very strange Adho Mukha Svanasana. And breathe. Feel that the abdomen can also help. The abdomen, insofar as it can be gently sucked up towards the spine, also helps in keeping the position up. And then when you come down, remember that lower abdomen remains going up. As you sit back down onto your heels, you can lift up your wrists. And come back into Vajrasana. So the next exercise we're about to do is going to continue on from this hand theme. So we'll be looking at weighting it down quite significantly, and obviously by definition drawing the strength from the arms, the shoulders and the backs themselves. So you might need a chair, you might need bricks, you might not need anything. It really depends on you and your ability in Uttanasana. So in Uttanasana, which is this forward fold, if you have difficulties, then it's best to stay high. If you don't, you can start to work down and use high bricks and place the flat of your hand and by definition start to come down like so until maybe you're actually on the ground. However, let's just try wherever we are, first of all being on the chair. And what we want to do is to keep this idea, hips moving that way, solar plexus moving forward, arms are straight, and I'm using the hasta bandha, so all 5 bases of the fingers are down. And all I want to do is bring myself onto the tiptoes, lower abdomen in, solar plexus moving towards my head. And so you can already see that I'm getting a nice bit of weight going onto the hands. And I breathe. The legs are strong as well. And then I can just come back and have a break. Break in an Ardha Uttanasana. And then try it again. The feet have obviously got to do quite an intensive point here. So there's a good chance that some of us might actually be getting a cramp in the foot while we do it. Oh well. Again, just exhaling, bringing the shoulders over the hands. Just bring my hands forward a wee bit. Feel on the one hand my pelvis going back to the wall behind me as my solar plexus moves towards the chair rest. Feel 5 bases of the fingers of the hand moving right down. And I feel that strong connection between hand and shoulder. And then I can move back and maybe have a break in Ardha Uttanasana, placing my hands on the chair. And relaxing. Micro bend with the legs, or if you want, you can actually suck those feet intensely into the hips, and by doing so have straight legs. Now we'll do this a few more times. If this is quite enough for you, then you just stick to the chair. Otherwise, you can start to play around with different heights with the brick. So when you're ready, exhale and come and really weighten down into the hands. Now, the lower your hands are, the more you're going to be bringing the chest closer towards the ground. And that means that the straight shape of the back that you made before is not going to be possible. Coming back in, having a break. Take hold of your hands if you're further down towards the ground and no longer using the chair. Otherwise, you can just have a break on the chair. And for those of us who have moved away from the chair, obviously there's a natural rounding shape of the back. The closer towards the ground you do your forward fold. So if this is going well, you could actually get rid of the bricks altogether and put the hands on the ground. Now this gets really, really tough, so take it easy. Wherever you are though, exhale, use that hasta bandha, the 5 bases of the fingers, and try and bring as much weight into your hands as possible. If you're down on the ground with your hands, you might need to bring your hands slightly more forward. And then you can come back, have a break. Massage your wrists if you have to. And then one more time. So when you're ready, place your hands. Think about the lower abdomen coming in towards the body. Think about the 5 bases of the fingers. And then just come out and go into Uttanasana, Ardha Uttanasana. Release your head. Massage your wrists if you have to. And then put your fingertips on the ground. Kneel with one leg, then the other. And come into Balasana, either with something under your head if you want, something nice and high or slightly lower, whatever you want, and just have a bit of a break. So
So this work on the hands, and then by definition the arms, the shoulders and the back is just really, really essential just for overall general strength. And then for an awful lot of positions in yoga, Adho Mukha Svanasana being one, the Adho Mukha Vrikshasana, which is the handstand, being another. But we're not going to do the handstand. We'll be doing instead Purvottanasana, and at that a modified version. So we're going to sit in this manner and bring our hands behind us with the fingers pointing towards the feet. And then on the next exhalation, we'll be bringing a retroversion into the pelvis, which is going to sweep our bottom off the floor. Now, when we start, let's just take it easy. The first thing we need to do is think of our hands and those 5 bases of the fingers. So get that up and running. And then the other thing you can think of is just trying to rotate those shoulders back as much as you can without lifting the index finger. So I'm really closing my eyes so I can get into the quality of my hand and just feel what's happening there. And then on the next exhalation, I can just come down, bring my legs into a type of sukhasana, legs crossed, and then maybe, if needed, massage again the hands. And one more time. We come into this Purvottanasana, but without stressing too much about getting that perfect position. On the next exhalation, bring that retroversion into the pelvis, but then forget about the pelvis, at least for now. Get the 5 bases of the fingers of the hand strongly rooted into the ground, and then rotate those shoulders out. So that rotation of the shoulders really draws the shoulder blades towards one another. Now this time, as you're more familiar with what needs to be done, and also just simply because we're more warmed up generally, we could start to raise the bottom a little bit more, maybe just a fraction, but don't let go of the bases of the fingers, and don't let go of that mirroring of the scapula towards one another. If the neck is a problem, then you could maybe gently look up towards the ceiling. And then on the next exhalation, you can come down, sit in cross-legged sukhasana, but change the cross of the leg this time. So whatever feels less natural to you, put that leg in front. Now if the hands or the wrists are hurting, you can put the fronts of the hands on the thighs. It's a very nice way to relieve that part. Turn your attention to the lower abdomen, the solar plexus. Make sure that this sukhasana is doing favours to your body. And we'll do Purvottanasana again once we have established the hands, that rotation of the shoulders. We're going to try and get that pelvis going up as much as it can. Some people refer to this as the tabletop position. It's exactly that. We would like to look like a table at the end of this. When you're ready, the retroversion brings us off. We focus on the hands. The outer shoulders come back. Maybe raise your eyes to look up a little at the ceiling. And then you can start to bring the pelvis slowly up. Now observe that the more the pelvis comes up, the more you've got to root down with both the feet and with the hands. So don't neglect those 4 areas that are in contact with the ground. Watch the index finger. Watch also your toes. I see a lot of people do this and they've lifted half the foot off the ground. Rooting is everything. If you want to get that pelvis up, you've got to bring your hands and feet down into the ground. And then exhale, just come. And again, sit cross-legged with that leg that feels a bit strange in front. Go back to feeling the lower abdomen and the solar plexus to make sure that you have got the right setup for your entire body. Breathe into your hands and wrists. And then just one final time. Hands, shoulders, exhale, come up with the pelvis. Keep monitoring those hands, those shoulders, and then start to monitor the feet as well. Remember, the more we go up with the pelvis, the more our feet have got to root down, the more our hands have got to root down. Keep your neck relatively long, you don't want to cramp it at all. And observe your breathing. Are you withholding it? Or are you respecting those clear cycles of inhalation and exhalation? And then exhale, bring your bottom down. Sukhasana. Hands on your thighs a minute, just to give them a break. And then when you're ready, you can start to massage your wrists. We've spent the whole of the lesson looking at the hands, and then by default also the arms, the shoulders and the back. So I wanted just to have a nice relax for the final part of today's session and open up the chest and relieve any of the tiredness that maybe you're feeling in the hands. So we're not going to do anything else on the hands. You will require either one or possibly 2 bricks. If you don't have that, then get a dictionary or something, because I would like to do hasta bandha, which is very nice at opening the chest. And we're going to do it in a very passive manner. Lying down on the ground like so. So grab at least 1 brick and then have it handy. Rooting our feet down onto the ground and also pushing with our elbows. Exhale. We're going to have the retroversion, which brings our bottom up in the same way as when we were doing Purusvartanasana. Then, leaving the bottom up, we're going to grab the brick and put it under our sacrum. Now, if your bottom isn't high enough, then logically you're going to have to bring your feet closer towards one another so you can then get it high. Yeah. And I would like you to put the brick or your books or whatever you've got, your support, under the sacral part of the spine. And then you can see that the chest is just opening in a very passive manner. In fact, it's the whole of the torso that is just opening up very nicely. Now, if you're sliding at all, then maybe just interlace your fingers under the bottom. And you can move from side to side, tucking in the outer shoulders, and by definition, also moving the scapula towards one another. And you can stop the sliding a little bit more. So that's up to you. Either have your fingers interlaced under your body. But if you're feeling okay, then you can just release those fingers and have the palms of the hands turned up towards the ceiling. Now, if you're not feeling very much, it could well be because if you're like me with long legs, you need more of a height. So if you're in that position, you can play around. If you've got books, obviously you add a few more books.
Otherwise, this is my solution. I add one brick in position 1 and the other brick position 3. Now that's very, very high. That's good if you're tall. Tall with long legs. So it's also partly to do with proportions. When you're in Setu Bandha, also observe the thighs, the feet, the legs. We really want them to be parallel. Depends on you, of course, but oftentimes the feet go to the side and with it the knees. So try and just be aware of this and bring the lower part of your body back into alignment. So to come out, it's very important to do this safely. You walk your feet a little bit towards your support and then pressing down, maybe with the toes, you lift your pelvis off, remove whatever support you've got, and then I would go back to a nice retroversion with the pelvis, which means that from the top of the spine down, you're putting the vertebra one by one back onto the ground. When your back is completely on the floor, just spend a moment enjoying this contact. And feeling your breathing.